Justin, welcome to CERAWeek. Welcome to the podcast. How's it been? You've been here for a couple of days. How's CERAWeek treating you?
Yeah, no. So first of all, thank you for having me on, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be here so far. I've had the opportunity to participate in a number of the interactive sessions that have gone on, as well as to participate in some of the panels that have gone on. Gotten to meet with some of our clients that are here from around the globe, and so it's been a pretty rewarding experience so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing to be part of it over the course of the rest of the week. Brilliant.
So this morning you participated in the executive conference. You were part of a session on investment in downstream.
Yep.
How was it? What was your immediate reflections on the discussions you were having?
Sure. So I got to participate in a panel that this morning that was focused on kind of how to get projects financed or what are the projects that are essentially going to move forward within the downstream space over the course of the next few years, with all of the pressure on the balance between energy security and energy transition. It was a great experience because the panel was made up of myself, someone from the leadership of Honeywell UOP, and then also somebody from the Kuwait National Petroleum Company. So with that, you got kind of the owner perspective, the perspective of kind of the technology providers, and then also the contractor perspective. So my initial impressions were very good because I think we got a lot of good reception because there was a really good discussion on, in some parts of the world where energy security needs to be essentially the primary concern, or where people are really more in a short-term, looking at short-term returns when they're evaluating whether or not projects are going to move forward or how they're going to invest their capital. And then also focused on in other parts of the world where you're able to take a longer view or a more medium-term view of how to do that, and getting a lot of projects that are going to be more focused on things that are going to be, long-term parts of the energy transition, whether it's and anyway, the different pathways that you're going to end up having for decarbonizing the major refining assets and the major petrochemical assets across the world.
So this pathways was kind of an important part of the discussion, right?
Yeah.
And there's a number of different ways that we can get from where we are today to where we want to be tomorrow in terms of energy transition. What are the ones that were exciting you? What stood out?
Sure. Well, so when you look at the pathways, I mean, the ones that are kind of the primary discussion points, not just in our session, but throughout all of CERAWeek right now, have been kind of the discussions of how do you integrate either biofuels or essentially renewable fuels as an output in order to meet kind of today's demand, but then also green, or essentially renewable hydrogen, where you have the lowest or no carbon intensity, or blue hydrogen or low carbon hydrogen, where you're coupling natural gas synthesis with carbon capture and utilization and storage. And so within those pathways, I think that for me the really exciting part of the discussion was, we focused a lot on what can refiners or petrochemical companies do in the short term to make the most impact. And I think a lot of that discussion came around the replacement fuels, the drop-in fuels. And it's an exciting discussion for me because some of our major projects here in the Americas are focused on not just converting or working with existing refiners to transform their assets to be able to produce renewable diesel, SAF, or other renewable fuels, but also that entire supply chain or the entire value chain along there of where do they get their feedstock, is the feedstock going to be available, and those have also been a lot of the projects, whether it's seed oils or other upstream assets, cellulosic biomass, things like that can supply that. And they're all areas that Wood really specializes in, and that my team specializes in. So it was a very exciting part of the discussion, because it essentially looks at the way that we've been developing our group over the last probably 5-6 years, really caters well to what a lot of the owners and the technology providers are kind of agreeing is maybe the fastest path to decarbonization for some of those refiners.
Yeah, and you got, I guess, it would have been resonating nicely with you in the opening remarks where Mike Wirth from Chevron was talking about their bet that they're making on biofuels with REG acquisition, all those kind of things.
Yeah. I mean that I got to talk about that example because obviously we're the EPCM contractor for the engineering contractor for the REG project, which was eventually acquired by Chevron, and then upstream of that, we're also involved in a lot of the design for some of the agrochemical companies that are doing the seed oils and the vegetable oils that are going to end up being used as the feedstock for REG and other projects. And so I think it really speaks to Wood's ability to cater to that entire thing. And yeah, so when the major owners are talking about the same thing and are essentially shaping their companies to kind of match some of the vision that we've had, I think that's a very rewarding part of one of the most rewarding parts of the conference for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So energy transition is a long-term game. It's going to take a whole series of steps to get there, to really get from point A to point B where we really want to be. Having said that, what are those near-term priorities? What are the things that we should be doing now in order to set ourselves up successfully for energy transition?
Sure. So I think that there's almost 2 or 3 ways that you can look at that. So from the project type and the types of investments that you're going in, we talked about some of the biofuel type projects. I think there's other important projects that are going to be out there because I think you need all the pathways, but I think that some of the pathways are going to take longer than others, and I think that immediately we do have to start the work towards the infrastructure to be able to use hydrogen and its derivatives to eventually work towards that kind of global scale, so that you have it eventually, some of those derivatives eventually becoming more commoditized and become something that gives access to clean fuel sources and clean feedstock for a number of different applications across the globe. And so that takes longer, though, because you're farther away from having infrastructure and demand that can harness that. And so we need to start immediately on working towards that. But you can't do that in a vacuum because it won't yield the short-term results that you need. And so you need to couple that with some of the other activities in blue hydrogen and in biofuels and other things in order to make sure that you're balancing the effort that you have on both. And the other thing is that regionally, geopolitically, there are different resources available and different policies that constrain or enable you in all the different places. So I think you also have to be really, really smart and find good technological solutions to be able to understand where you're going to be able to, get the most value, both economically and from a decarbonization standpoint.
And I guess there's the biggest bang for your buck, but there's also the quickest bang for your buck, right? This is an immediate pressing problem, so we need to find those solutions that are going to get us there really quickly.
Yeah, and that's where you get into, it's nice that you're going to build out this nice infrastructure and you're going to go for the lowest carbon hydrogen over time in order to replace many of these end use cases, and not just in refining and petrochemicals, but in transportation, in power generation, in heating, in even new industries. But there are things you have to do in the interim because it's going to be too long. You're probably looking more in the 2040 to 2060 range before that becomes a reality. There's a lot of years between now and then that we need to focus on getting our carbon intensity down. So I think that's fair. The good thing, and one of the things I'd like to share is another reflection I've had since I've been here is that when walking, so the way that CERAWeek set up is you have you have all the major sessions, but then you also have a number of kind of these houses that are set up and these other areas where there's displays of various larger technologies and different specialty technology discussions that are happening. And as we've walked across, as you spend time here and you look at a lot of the momentum around a lot of the major integrated hydrogen derivative projects that have a lot of momentum and a lot of buzz and really it feels like have the most momentum to be the successful ones that are going to move forward. Feels like there's a whole lot of them that Wood are involved in, and to the point of almost all of the major ones that really have the most momentum here. And so oftentimes you can sit in your office or you can be, just in your microcosm within the company, you say, oh, we're involved in a couple of these projects, but there's probably so many more of them out there. But coming here and seeing where you have this concentration of the best and most advanced projects in the world being represented and seeing that you're part of so many of them, that's probably the other really, really rewarding part of this so far has been to be able to interact with all them and know how much we've contributed to things that are really, really hard to do.
And I guess there's something encouraging, there's something that gives you hope there that says, while this is a macro, it's been called the greatest challenge of our lifetime. Sure. There are steps that we can take. We know some of the paths we can take in order to make that difference.
Yeah, and not just that we've the paths that are being the most successful feel like the paths that we're on. Yeah. And so from that standpoint, it in some ways validates some of the decisions that we've made, but also says, okay, if we go ahead and we're bold and we try to look years in advance and we take some chances and we invest in certain, for us, subject matter expertise, training up our staff. Because one of the other things is everybody here, you go around and you have discussions with all the owners and all the other players that are in the industry, and everybody is constrained by the same lack of talent, or I say talent, I mean expertise in certain of the new technologies, just because the world didn't need this much expertise in these technologies 3 years ago. Right. And it's clear to me that it's not a problem that we're going to go hire and just be able to all cannibalize each other to do. And so the importance of some of the investment that we've made of trying to create the industry's next set of leaders in these technologies also really feels like that we're on the right track there, that we're investing in the right areas, and that we're enabling our people to take greater positions of leadership within the industry and thought leadership in the industry on CCUS, on the different hydrogen, methanol, ammonia, sustainable aviation fuels, e-methanol, e-gasoline, a lot of the different things that we've really developed a lot of strength around. So I think that's also been something that's been kind of illuminating for me since I've been here. That's
great. It's really helpful. Justin, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to hang out with us, to talk to the podcast. Hope you enjoy the rest of your time here at CERAWeek. For those of you who've been listening along, feel free to check out woodplc.com/podcast, where you'll see all of the episodes from here at CERAWeek. And in the meantime, thanks very much for joining us.